In this series, lowimpact.org talks with people working to build a mutually owned, democratic, decentralised economy that builds community and doesn't destroy nature. We want to increase collaboration to bring about system change. Find links to the sites mentioned in the videos in the description below. Join the conversation by liking, commenting and subscribing to our channel.
Right, so let's talk about price then, because price is the big thing, isn't it? It's I interviewed a potter recently, and it was exactly the same situation for him. He said, how can he produce his pottery at a reasonable price? Well, when I say reasonable, it is a reasonable price because it pays for your time and pays for the sustainability. If you see mugs or textiles that are suspiciously cheap, then you sort of know that somebody's getting exploited somewhere, and the environment is getting exploited along the way as well.
Yeah, you don't sort of know it. I think you know it for certain.
You absolutely know it, yeah.
I think it's safe to say that, unless it's secondhand, which is a whole.
Unless it's secondhand, which is
the market changes, doesn't it?
What can we do about this price thing?
Well, you and I both know what we want to do about it.
Yes. So you know that we've been involved in this mutual credit scheme, and we've been talking about this quite a lot. And my position is that if you're a producer, so if I could get the potter into this conversation as well, you're going to need pottery at some time in your life. So is everybody else in your community. He's going to need textiles and clothing, and so is everybody else in the community. And there's lots of other craft skills that are going to be needed by everybody in the community, as well as locally produced organic food and natural building and renewables installers. All these kind of crafts, all these kind of skills, they can turn out quite expensive. But if you're a producer, if you're producing into this market as well as consuming from it, then you benefit from the higher prices, as well as paying the higher prices. You're receiving the higher prices, so that they cancel each other out, and everybody gets better quality goods and more sustainable goods, and your job ends up being more interesting. You're not on a slippery slope to the Amazon warehouse or the Uber. You're as an Uber driver.
It's not a race to the bottom.
It's not a race to the bottom.
Standards are maintained and maintainable. So I remember when I was 20 years ago, 30 years ago or something, a Devon lad said to me, we were talking about free range eggs and the price of them. And he said he was from a farming family, I think. I'd had a different conversation with a different girl from a farming family, and I think she was from a very, very poor farming family, and she refused to buy free range eggs because she couldn't afford them and didn't believe in them, or it wasn't a priority, or all of those things. The male friend said to me on a different occasion, the price of a free range egg is the price of an egg. So unfortunately, in the capitalist monetary system, a different mindset is pretty much compelled. A good price is the cheapest possible. Now, we know that is not a good price. That is very seldom a good price. A good price is probably not, if not the highest possible, it is certainly pretty high compared to what we're used to. As you say, if we're all producers and consumers, we both parties benefit. So it irons things out and it ceases to be less of an issue.
But I guess, if you're on minimum wage, 0 hours contracts, then this kind of conversation is meaningless. You're just not in this conversation. Whereas if you lived in the kind of community. Okay, let's talk about a mutual credit club. If there was a mutual credit club in your community and you could join a group of 100, 150, 200 people who are committed to providing goods and services to that club and trying to get as much of their goods and services from that club, then you could sort of take the time to learn a skill and then join this club where people are committed to buying from you. So you have a local market for your goods.
You have a local market that is not distorted. You have an actual free market.
You have an actual free market without sort of, if you're a small producer, you have to pay your full share of tax. Whereas if you're Amazon or Google or any of the big boys, you just don't. You can pay expensive lawyers to make sure that you pay hardly any tax.
And you
Um,
can use sweatshop labor or
and
slave
you can use sweatshop labor, yeah.
in your village. They no one will let you use slaves. If people think you're using slaves, you'll be ostracized.
Yeah. And yet, if you're part of a company that does exactly that, but they're just out of sight,
You
then
monopolize.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, so the mutual credit aspect is you don't actually need any money to join a mutual credit club. If you trade with each other on credit, so you would get an account. Say, for example, I was a blacksmith and you wanted some sort of metal products, and I would provide them to you for credit in my account. And then at some point I would need textiles, I would get them from you, and then my account would go back down again, your account would go up, but it's not money, it's just numbers in an account.
Yeah.
And so then you bring in candle makers and small holders and basket makers and builders and renewables installers and taxi drivers and restaurateurs,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody can have an account. And you
Yeah.
don't actually need any money in your community. And if you can trade with each other without money, then there's no exchange medium that can be sucked out and dumped into tax havens. It's just a different kind of business model altogether.
Yeah.
So that's what we're interested in doing. And I mean, how can we communicate that to existing craftspeople and potential craftspeople who may be able to take up a craft in the future?
I think it might be important to look at transition steps.
Right.
So the transition phases to that model, Dave. Obviously, I'm idiosyncratic in that I've been itinerant for the duration of this business so far. So I've been moving around the British Isles, Scotland, Ireland, Brittany as well. Um, so I haven't been able to properly plug into any one geographic community, and I regret that, and I need to, for all sorts of reasons, including this one. Um, but I think one has to recognise that it is a huge step from where we are now. So to give one illustration of what I mean, Dave, um, my goods are very much considered luxury goods, which has a lot to do with the price, of course. Um, but also when you're spending that much money, and even in the ideal once and future village that I think you're describing, you're still spending a lot of money, whatever it is. You're still spending a lot of your own time, perhaps, to give in
Mm.
exchange for,
Yeah.
on your own product or service. You're still spending a lot. Now, we're in a capitalist consumer world where people have got used to having an awful lot of choice, and an awful lot of choice at rock bottom prices. We're
Mm.
talking about the prices separately, but um, not everyone likes this stuff. Not everyone wants this stuff. Now, we can't suddenly go communist and say, well, too bad. We all have to
Yeah.
be reduced to the lowest common denominator. There's one weaver in your village. You have to wear chunky brown wool or nothing. So I think we have to be careful of that. Certainly from where we are now, people come to me
Mm.
because they
Mm.
love what I do, but they
Yeah.
love my colors and they love my art and they love my story. It's very personal. It's not that they would just go to any old textiles maker who
Yeah.
producing any old cloth.
I just want to make something really, really clear, though. Low Impact is not advocating compulsory purchase of craft goods. It's entirely voluntary.
I know, but if you're in a mutual credit scheme where there is only one, maybe two weavers, two textile producers in your
You don't have to use them if you don't like their stuff. It's, you can use money and go and get it for somewhere else.
use money and you go somewhere else, and the system is undermined, isn't it? So
Mm.
um, what I need anyway, personally, as a traveling business currently, or what I have been needing, is an online solution where people can easily see. My work is very visual. People need to see exactly what they're getting if they're not physically close, and currently they're not. So I just wonder whether there are steps in between. We don't all live in this thriving village. So what are the steps to get to the thriving village?
Mm-hmm. You see, and it's just, I mean, I'm from a working class background, and when I talk to working class people, and I go back home and talk to my family, and everybody likes this vision. It's like, that would be fantastic. I would love to do that. I actually don't like my job at the moment, and so to do something with my hands, that I'm good with my hands, to be autonomous, not to have a boss breathing down my neck, to actually get a good price for the work that I do. That sounds really, really healthy.
Yeah.
So I think we're pushing it as an open door.
Yes.
I don't think there's any massive opposition to this kind of vision.
Yeah.
So what kind of transition steps? I mean, maybe some places where the sort of craft world is well represented, and the local food is well represented, and places like Lewis and Stroud and Totnes and Hebden Bridge, and those kind of places where the will is there.
Yes.
And maybe a little bit of money, which is required at the moment, is there as well.
Yeah.
As models that we can point at and say, look, it works there. It can work in your community. Why not if it works there?
Do you think there's any possibility of, or any mileage, any value in an interim step, which is an online marketplace that therefore reaches a wider audience and a more dispersed audience, but does deal with the currency change? So has the
Yeah,
alternative banking model that
yeah,
is good for sustainability. Like maybe we can't hit all targets at once. We can't hit the alternative banking model, the degrowth banking model, at the same time immediately as hitting the localist model, at the same time as providing choice, attracting the numbers, so on. Maybe it's sort of broken down into
yeah.
stages.
Well, I mean, local is ideal, but about the Credit Commons, about the Credit Commons protocol. So if there were mutual credit clubs in a range of towns all over the country, and in fact all over the world, then the Credit Commons protocol is a language that allows those clubs to talk to each other and trade with each other seamlessly. And so if you can't find customers or suppliers in your local town, then you could find them further afield, and as time goes on and this movement grows, you can find those producers or closer to home, or your customers closer to home.
Yeah, I think one thing that a business like mine really needs, though, would be the online visuals.
Yeah.
Like, a scarf is not a scarf not a scarf is not a scarf. You're a man, Dave. No offense, but women are really.
I'm a man. No offense. No offense taken.
Wait. You're a man, Dave. No offense. Women are really fussy about their clothes.
Oh, okay.
I really like your t-shirt, Dave. I'm generalizing hugely.
Yeah.
Exceptions, and some of us are prepared to start being much less fussy.
I'm not very fussy. I have to admit, you're right. I'm not very fussy.
No. I'm making a joke. I really like your t-shirt. I'm making a joke. There is a gender difference, though, Dave. And I've noticed that in working with you guys. So you're not taking into account the need of a business like mine for the visuals. Like, people have to see my work. They have to see it really well displayed. They can't come and find me physically locally.
That's a really good point. And we are a bunch of nerdy blokes.
A bunch of nerdy blokes. Half the population. Who's your youngest member?
Youngest? Oh, we've got members in their 20s. We have.
Okay.
We've got a good range. Mostly older blokes, though, yes.
Okay, it's this question of getting from where we are now to there. So I want to get to a point where I don't use the internet. I want to live like Mark Boyle. I don't want even electricity. I'm electricity sensitive.
Mark Boyle is the moneyless man who used to have a column in The Guardian, has written the Moneyless Manifesto, and now lives very off-grid in a community in Ireland where you can only communicate with him by letter. with a stamp on.
He uses no electricity. That's the point, and that's fundamental, and no sort of carbon heavy machines. So his most high tech machine is probably the kettle, or I don't know. He has a Rayburn of some sort, I believe, but he doesn't use what we can basically refer to as machines. So there are no economies of scale, or virtually no economies of scale, or economies of scale are limited at a very low level, and no pollution, and no, absolutely minimal embodied energy. I want to live like that. That would be my ideal. But I've got to think now at this point in my life, how do I get from here to there? My business is completely dependent on the internet and on tech, digitech. I'm not on Sardinia, where you have that island community and everyone knows everyone. And
it's a bit bigger than that. It's
it is a big, okay, yeah, but still,
I mean, Sardinia, by the way, so just to let people know, is where there's an island-wide mutual credit network. They turn over 50 million euros worth of trade every year, but without money. So it's all in mutual credit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of brokering, isn't there? So there isn't an all singing, all dancing, beautiful looking platform where producers and consumers can meet directly in this central hub.
I'm hearing you. I'm really hearing you. I think that's really important.
For me, for a transition model, we need something like that.
Yeah.
I drew up a business plan for this, Dave, and we can talk more about the details of that at some point.
I mean, maybe one of the things that a mutual credit club could talk about straight away is a shop premises. There are loads of shops in towns being boarded up.
Yeah.
Get yourself a shop, put all the sort of local craft produce and food and opportunities for local businesses in this shop, so people can actually pick it up and have a look at it.
Yeah, my first idea was that a few years ago. I was discussing the possibility of doing that in Totnes, pop up. It's like kind of like a pop up shop in culturally. It'd be like a pop up shop, but it might not be pop up. But a hub, an exchange hub, I think could be really good, so that every producer has a tiny display illustrating what they do. At the moment, for me, geographically, that doesn't work. So it's thinking about, what about those businesses and those people who are internet dependent at the moment for whatever reason? Can they go straight into a shop, or is there an internet option that we could start with, and then does it decentralize further and come to one's local town after that?
Photographs. We need photographs and videos and to display these products.
Well, I do all of that on Etsy, of course. That's what I do in my own shop. I think lowimpact.org should turn into a massive exchange hub as well. Could it do that?
Funny you should say that. I've been talking with Dill, and we're hoping to set up a low impact mutual credit network. So, a national hub for craft businesses and locally produced food and building and renewables and all the kind of things that we're interested in.
Can your website also host all the visuals and the exchange, so that there isn't a heavy brokering service required in the middle, and producers and consumers can, as I say, meet on your website almost with?
Definitely. I mean, we have the directory now, and we can put images in. You can put as many images into your directory profile as you like. Not sure if you can add videos, but
to me, what would be really good for me would be if it were an actual, like Etsy, if it were an actual trading platform, so I could do all the accounts.
It will be, but a mutual credit trading platform, yes.
Brilliant. Okay, great. So
that's on the way. That's going to come. We're getting a new website by the end of September, hopefully, fingers crossed.
Wow, okay.
And then we got other plans, such as a mutual credit network and a wikification of the topics. So we get specialists, such as your good self, hopefully, who will sort of come in and sort of look after their areas of interest, and you get good promotion in return. It's a two-way street.
That's the thing. It needs to be a platform where we're seen. We need visibility.
Yeah.
Those of us who can't be part of a shop on the high street, which would be the other way of getting visibility.
Yeah.
But I think I should imagine there are plenty of people who can't be part of a shop on the high street for one reason or another. I don't know. at the moment, but maybe that would be the next step, is the shop on the
Yeah,
high street.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.